Three members of the Lacey Green History Group, Gordon, Doug and Dennis, hope to recall who the residents and homeowners were living in Lacey Green in the years 1939, early 1940s, at the outbreak of World War II. Beginning at Grymsdyke, working their way up the village, recalling residents on the left-hand side. So, who lived at Grymsdyke in those days?
You can't just ship him out. Right. And they took over the tennis court.
During the war?
During the war, yeah. It was offices.
And they had a gardener who was Mr. Borman.
Mr. Borman.
I think Miss Jarvis, our infant teacher.
Oh yes, she lived down there somewhere, didn't she?
She lived with Bormans because I seem to recall that she had a hot dinner every day, which some child would go down and bring up to the school to Miss Jarvis.
That I don't remember because I had to go home. You didn't?
No. I think to my sister Sheila used to go down there and it was wrapped up in a tea cloth or something. Now, moving on was Grymsdyke Farm.
Charlie Green.
Farmer. The vicarage, and the vicar was
the Reverend Stewart. He's the only vicar, the first vicar I remember.
And Miss Varney was his housekeeper. She could have been his cousin, I believe. Next, moving on, St John's Church.
Start at the southern end of Church Lane. We've got four houses on the main road. First one now, I don't know.
He was a Spitfire.
Yeah, I think it was Jordan.
Jordan, Spitfire. He was killed
in
the war.
Next one up would be Chippings now. There's one that's been extended.
Don Finley lived there during.
And then you've got the police house. And then there's another house
next door to Lynn Jones's lived.
I don't know who was there in the wartime. And then there's one at the northern end of Church Lane.
Which is Summer House, where Sammy Morgan lived. Can you recall who the policeman was who moved in there first when we were at school?
Well, Harris was the first policeman I remember. Harris and his two boys, I think he had a daughter, but I never knew. Harris, he went to be the policeman at Lane End, didn't he?
When did Frank Goldsmith come then, PC Goldsmith? They had three children who were at Lacey Green School during the war.
Pat, Diana, Derek and Peter. Pat was my age. Diana was next, then Derek, then Peter.
Diane married
Tim Harvey.
So who was the next policeman after Mr Goldsmith?
P.C. Herbert. Then we had
Adams. Now, moving on to Gracefield's house. Who lived there during the war?
Probably Miss Ealing.
Yeah, it was known as Ealing's, wasn't it?
Then during the war, I recall Mrs Carter had a little car called a Tatra, which was Italian, I believe, and Sir Poodles. After Mrs Carter came the Jordans.
The Parker Knoll fame.
Yes, chairman and managing director of Parker Knoll. Moving on was Black Horse, the landlord.
Frank gone.
Daughter
Ruby. Ruby, don't take your love to town.
What was that?
Ruby, the song, Don't Take Your Love to Town.
Down the little lane.
Randalls and the Williams family. Lived on the right hand side. Kenny was the oldest. Johnny, Ted, Alan. That's a bit right.
And on the left hand side were the Williams. Ted and Lily Williams and Edwin.
Edwin lived on the left hand side.
Farm at the end of the drive.
Yeah, then that was Harry Floyd's farm at bottom. Moving back to the main road, first house on the left was Horace Rickson.
And Mrs Rickson had two sons, Nelson and Wellington. Nelson was an admiral, wasn't he? And Wellington was it the Battle of Waterloo?
Yeah, you got it. Also living there was
Dinky Wallington.
It was two houses in those days, whereas it's one house today.
Dennis, Dinky had a motorbike.
Had a Vespa scooter, the sidecar.
I don't remember
Which was a bit unusual.
So Dinky rode in the sidecar?
Yeah, that was a bit after the war, mind you, but...
The Vespas came around in the 50s.
Then Hickman Stores.
Albert Hickman was his
Harold. Mrs Hickman. And they were the village petrol pumps. Anyway, it's a cottage now then. So who lived in?
This boy called David. The May family lived there in the 50s, not us. We used to walk from Darvel's Hill to link up with Les, and three of us and Les used to walk up the village, and we used to then pick this boy David up and go on up to Sunday school. I remember just getting a cottage to pick a boy up.
From Keir Cottages, Carroll's Road, I've got down Danny Rice.
Danny Rice is much later. He's nearly after the war, Danny is. Well, the first one was Mrs Bowler, wasn't it?
There's Bowlers, Wise.
Wise lived in the end.
Well, I don't know in which order they lived.
And Wise, I think Mrs I only remember this old lady.
There was Rose Bowler, and she'd go and crack a big bundle of sticks on her shoulder.
Rose Bowler lived in the middle of one.
And Sons, they were probably
Darky Sutton.
Darky Sutton.
Darky Sutton and his steamroller lived in the middle somewhere. And Mrs.
Who did he work?
Smiths and that.
Smith was in the house.
So that was a steam driven.
Yeah,
That's why it,
steamroller.
It was a steamroller, yeah.
so that's why he was always black.
Yeah.
And you probably already know him as Darky Sutton. So I say, when you spoke to him, you always spoke to him to make him go, "Yep." Boys lived in the top right hand.
Nice one.
They moved in after Les moved out in the probably 39 ton.
And what were their names?
Chrissy, Bill and Vera. Bill died young.
Okay, back to the main road. First house on the left, Mrs. Chilton, who was the post lady married to
Frank Chilton, good cricketer, and daughter, Joan, who eventually became Mrs. Kellaway.
next door, Fred Adams, special constable, churchwarden. He must have been a very popular churchwarden, special constable. But wasn't he a sergeant? I can recall the days, so there's a telephone box opposite his house, and that was the police post for the evening. He could receive instructions from Middlesbrough. And then he then had to be
at Halland in about 20 minutes, something like that.
something like that, at the phone box. We knew he was coming along, us boys who lived up around Piccadilly, and we used to throw apples at him as he came past on his bicycle, trying to get the apples through his spokes of his bonnet. Mind you, we used to duck down, but we were rather frightened of him actually, but we could run quite fast. Moving on from Fred Adams,
There was a Biggs family.
Little Wayside Cottage.
that was
Joan Biggs, Ted Biggs, Ray Biggs, Pat Biggs, Brian Biggs.
his name was Ralph Biggs. Next house on the left was Dr. Halliday. What was that called?
Called Highlands in those days.
In this year 2012, it's now called Ardengrove. And next door lived Mrs. Dow and boys.
Jack, Bill and Bert, and a horrible little white dog that used to chase you on your bike.
Moving on to,
Erith Cottages.
and who lived there?
Mr. and Mrs. Rickson and Archie in the first one.
Harry and Nelly.
I only found out the other day why they called him Bally. His nickname was Bally, because he had a hoop that he used to have hoops that rolled in the road with a stick, and he used to say, "Can't get my bally hoop to run on."
There was 2 cottages at Erith. The second one was Tom Rickson and his wife, 2 daughters.
Names.
You said one was Mrs. Tilbury, eventually was Mrs. Tilbury.
Nelly married Tilbury and lived down at Saunderson, by the Rose and Crown.
She was one of the daughters.
They had their son John married Ruby Rickson through Longwick. Moving on was the Methodist Chapel, which was built,
1855,
closed
2001.
from there.
Owen Gone, I can recall living in the first cottage after the chap. His end rose onto the road. It was Owen Gone.
Is that where Mosh's place, John Hill, was built now?
And then the next house was Mrs. Redbrook, opposite the Bay Caves, and the next house was Roger Benyon.
Bert Redrup's house is on the market, yeah.
So moving on was Promised Land Farm. I believe Frank Innes was the farmer.
Yeah, INNS.
And I had
2 children, Barbara and David.
and they came to Lacey Green School. Moving on along the road, main road, was the builder's yard. Johnny Saunders.
Well, Johnny sold his house before he came to the builder's yard, wasn't it? Where the Tongs eventually lived in. That's where John Saunders really lived. Then there was the builder's yard, and there was cottages at the Ings, what was the name? The Luxfords lived in one, and Maunders lived in the other.
Back to Johnny Saunders. He was the builder and undertaker in those days.
You said there was a garage in the field,
Yeah.
the farmer's bus.
But that was before you got to the...
Greenland's his name.
Why did farmer's bus get parked in there?
No one knows. I don't even remember it, but Les said that Les was always on about Farmer, where David Farmer parked his bus.
He had 3 buses. They were 20-seaters. He had a Dodge, a Rio, and that Rio eventually ended up at Butlins at Clacton. And he had a Leyland. The last bus he had was a Leyland, a big green one. But was there a local bus driver?
I only remember him in its heyday. Then he took on a bloke called Freddie Ferguson from Laphill. Yeah, he drove it. And then there was a bloke called Job who drove it for a time.
I see he worked for Witchers down at the railway station in the garage. And sometimes Bunny Lacey drove the bus at weekend. I know it was Percy Chilton used to drive from Great Hampden. Anybody could drive a bus in those days, but if you could drive a bus. And I seem to recall you could go to Wickham and back for sixpence return.
Via Great Hampden and Brights Bottom.
Yeah, via Great Hampden and Brights Bottom. Didn't David Farmer, wasn't he the landlord of the Harrow?
Or at least he lived there if he wasn't the landlord. Then he moved to Monk's.
Moving on from Johnny Saunders' builder's yard, I can only recall Mr. Tom living there. Who lived there during the war?
Well, Saunders family. Johnny Saunders, he was alive then in those days.
And moving on,
Low cottages. Maunders in the left-hand side.
that's George Maunders.
Yeah.
And on the right side was George Luxford,
And Mrs. Luxford,
Gladys,
Alan and Vernon,
Alan and Bernard. And moving on lived Will Saunders.
Will and Flo.
And then there's a little cottage there, Sid England, and it got a number of walnut trees in the meadow, which we used to go in and pick up.
That was Mrs. Luxford's father and mother.
And then Jack Lawrence, which is the post office of a